Hey, I'm Kalash, and today I'm making Rek'Sai from League of Legends. I started by taking this wooden circle thing and filling it up with a lot of foil. I did this to use less clay, and also because I wanted to make some space for adding LEDs later. A roll of foil later, I started covering it with polymer clay to make the base shape. After that, I started adding little bits of clay and shaping them into rocks. This did take quite a long time and might have been easier to do with some foam instead. I then took the real rock and used it to make my fake rock, lightly texturing most of the surface. And added some last remaining rocks and baked it. After removing the foil, I moved on to making Rek'Sai herself. I made a base shape and covered it all in clay. While making her body, I realized just how weird some parts of her design are, especially in the game model. And ignore what's happening on her back because I ended up removing it later anyway. I added more wire for the arms and legs and covered them in a layer of clay, then baked them so it's easier to work on the details without everything moving around on the wire. And gave her some more muscular shoulders. They seemed too big at first, but after adding everything else, they actually ended up being a bit thinner than what I would have liked. I then made a basic hand shape. How it looked didn't really matter that much because most of it would be covered later anyway. I attached them to the body and baked everything again. I ended up ripping off the legs because it would be pretty difficult to sculpt them with the body getting in the way. Of course, she also has a pretty odd leg shape, so I just looked at the game model and tried to make something similar. Then I gave her a little shark fin for a base and baked it to have something more stable to work on. After that, I gave her a more advanced and layered shark fin upgrade. I decided to make Rek'Sai because I've gotten back into League of Legends recently and found her design really cool. But when I actually started working on it, I realized just how oddly shaped everything is and struggled quite a bit. The weirdest part by far was this forearm armor? I don't even know what to call it. I originally started with the back, but it ended up being one of the last things I made because I couldn't make it in a way that I liked. I wanted to keep the legs separated for easier painting, but I needed to glue them on to know how to position them. I left her claws and hand details for last so I don't destroy them by my poor handling. I really dreaded working on the head, but I ended up getting the shape the way I like it on first try and had a lot of fun working on it. Luckily for me, she doesn't have eyes, which is something I always struggle with and fail to make properly. I pre-baked some teeth, which made sculpting the mouth much easier. I started by painting the rocks first. I wanted to go for a more sandy and desert look for lore purposes. I considered also using some sand and even making a little cloud of sand as she's burrowing out, but it would be difficult without an airbrush, so I left it out for this time. After 2 layers of washes, I went over it with a light dry brush. Then I started painting her body. Her body has quite a few gradients and similar colors, so to make my life easier, I tried to do it in sections. I started with the more pinkish fin and arm muscles, going over the base coat with a darker, slightly diluted color, and then adding a brighter color on top that still lets the dark shine through. I also added a few highlights with a much lighter color. Then I painted a lot of her body blue. I went over most of the shadows with a more purple blue, and then once again with an even darker purple blue, but sadly this camera is not that great at picking up colors, so you can't really see it that well. And I added some lighter highlights as well. I used the same colors to paint the head and gave her some dirty teeth. Most colors I used on her were just different variations of mixtures of purple, blue, and gray. Even these claws are just a very dark purple. Lastly, I glued on her head and she was ready to go. I added some foil to the bottom of the base, hoping it would help the LEDs reflect around, but I'm pretty sure the LEDs I used are so weak that nothing could help them. And if you don't know who Rek'Sai is, you might be wondering, why do I need purple LEDs under desert rocks? But trust me, it all makes sense. I painted the wood black and put everything together. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!